Nobby's Beach Surf Club versus Miami Surf Club fruit and veggie fight. I remember hearing about it. I thought, I've got to watch this. It was hectic because you've trained rugby league players, kayakers, other sort of things, mate. What's the difference between their training and a professional surfer?
Surfers are all so different. They're tall, they're short, they're limber, they're stiff. They've got different complexities.
Mate, some of these, who are the best up-and-comers that you've seen in the Surfing Australia youth program you've got there?
Standing on the hill in the car park at Burleigh, and it was a pub.
Oh, yeah.
That was like, whoa, what the heck? And then I think I watched Joel Vaughan had 40 seconds.
Welcome to the Green Room, your backstage pass to the world of surfing. I'm your host, surf MC and commentator Terry Tappa, diving into epic wins, crushing fails and wild stories with surfing's biggest names. So wax up, paddle out and join us in the Green Room, where the surf chat never goes flat. G'day folks and welcome to the Green Room. I'm Terry Tappa, your host, and the man I've got here is Worko, Glen Workman. I've known Worko since I was like a tiny grommet, probably 4'2" or something, but he was hanging out at Nobby's Beach, where I spent a lot of my time surfing between Nobby's and Burleigh. Worko then was on the dark side. He was a clubby, we're from Brisbane. He's done a lot of things in his life. He's Surfing Australia's strength and high performance coach, strength and conditioning. But Worko's played rugby league on a lot of levels, played with some of the world's best rugby league players. He's trained overseas, Olympians, and now he's doing Australia's best surfers. So, like all these surfers tell me, they got a lot of respect for this man, and so have I. And welcome to the Green Room, Glen Workman. Worko.
G'day, mate. How are you?
Good, mate. Good. I hadn't seen you for years, and then I remember one day Mum and Dad are watching the London Broncos on the show. He goes, "Look, there's Worko." And, there you are doing the training and that. Mate, well, let's go back a bit. Your younger life, where did you, I know you came from Brisbane, but where did your life start?
I actually started as an Air Force brat. So my dad was in the Air Force in the 60s. And we moved around. Like, we were in schools for only like 3 years, and then we'd get moved on, or Dad would get moved on. And we eventually, when Dad got out of the Air Force, we landed in Brisbane. And then we had only 2.5 years in Brizzy, and then we moved to the Gold Coast when I was in grade 12.
Mate, and your dad, a bit of a legend in the RSL, Ron Workman, mate. He's used to host the Currumbin thing all the time.
The Anzac Day at Currumbin. He started that, long time ago now, probably 17 years ago, yeah.
Wow, that's pretty legendary. That's awesome, mate. Well, you played a lot of rugby league. I saw there, you played overseas, you played for the Valley's Diehards, mate, and also Wally Lewis's flatmate. What was it like playing rugby league, back in the late 70s, early 80s?
Early 80s.
Early 80s.
I started at Burleigh Bears, and then we'd won a couple of grand finals. I think it was 81. We won all 3 grades. And then I went up to Valleys in 82, and pretty much the next year I was playing grade. And then I moved in with different flatmates, and one of them ended up being the Australian captain, which was pretty cool for an 18, 19-year-old.
Yeah. And, mate, you still see Wally around?
We still keep in touch. Everyone's got different lives now. We still go to Valleys reunions and go to benefit dues and that, and catch up.
I remember when I was a kid, I hated Valleys because they won everything.
Yeah, they had a pretty good era, and then there's that period where transfer fees came in internally within the Brisbane League, and then that's when Wally went to Wynnum, and certain clubs at that stage there was probably 12 Australian players playing in the Brisbane League, so the Brisbane League used to be really strong back then, and that was pre-Broncos, pre-North Queensland.
Well, mate, I've found out something here, right? Because you and Wally, you lived together for a few years, did you?
Yeah.
Well, mate, I found this thing, Seagulls Forever. 1984, Wynnum versus Valleys. Wynnum met Valleys in the match of the day at Lang Park on Sunday and ran out victors 32-20 after 10 all at half-time. It was quite obvious that the Valleys team was sent on a mission to niggle and upset the likes of Lewis, Dowling and Miles. Scott Nichols, Mick Hickey and Glen Workman were all sent to the sin bin for Valleys within a period of 16 minutes. Referee Jim Ward had a very busy afternoon with 27 penalties. Mate, what happened then?
Well, there's a lot of... I was still living with Wally at the time, so our household that week was pretty interesting, just in the fact that Valleys were playing Wynnum. And then Ross Strudwick had been the coach of Wally for a number of years, and he sort of had this idea on how to get under certain people's skins, and we were just told to do what we were told to do, and that was it. Mm.
And how did you get sent off, mate? Was it...
Mine was about doing something in the scrum, and unfortunately there was a photo of me giving said referee a fair...
Mouthful?
Yeah, and it was on the front page of the Courier Mail the next day, and my mother was extremely upset with me.
Oh, I can imagine.
But yeah, it was all fun and games in those days.
Well, mate, then you went to England and played as well over there.
Yeah, I had a stint in North Queensland, and then I came back, and the Brisbane Broncos had just started, and I did a little bit of a stint there, and then I went to England and went to Halifax and spent 14 years over there.
Wow, and is that where you started to get into the training side of things?
I started that, had some knee injuries up in North Queensland when I was up there, and then the Brisbane Broncos, when it first started in 87, 88, they sort of helped me, and I did all my internships with them, and then I spent a year with them before I went to England. And I still wanted to play. At that stage when I was at the Broncos, I wasn't playing. I just had so much work to do. I was doing the school development stuff, and it was a fledgling club that was starting out, so there was just a lot of work to do, and I didn't actually play at all. Then I went to England and sort of started playing again over there.
And that's where you got into your training and all
well,
that.
I'd done a sports science degree when I was at the Broncos.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you've been a sports scientist for how many years now? God,
I wouldn't say I was too much of a scientist, but yeah.
But mate, like back in the day, you were at Nobby Surf Club. Is that when you first started, like, getting into surfing and that sort of thing? Because you go all right on a board, I know that. Still,
I sort of still. Surfing was a real release for me because everything else was all I wanted to do was play rugby league. So that was all intense, and then surfing was just my ability to get out there and just enjoy life and be in the ocean. And
putting up with me and my brother and Marcus and Brow and all those guys. It was pretty cool, the crew we had at Nobby's, and a bunch of good surfers too, eh?
Yeah, there's some really, golly, I even go to Steve and Gary Bolson and then Deetsy, and there's a really good crew, actually.
Yeah, it was pretty tight too, sort of thing. I remember Stickman, one of the younger guys, saying, he goes, "We wouldn't paddle over near you guys." And I thought, yeah, you wouldn't have got a wave anyway, Stickman.
But it was a good era because, I think it was Ronnie Cox would have a van, and he'd just like lump 6 kids in and take you down to Byron, and you just go surfing. It was a really good era to grow up in, I guess.
Mate, there's one thing at Nobby's I remember when I was a little kid, because you're a couple of years older than me, but... Mate, the annual Nobby's Beach Surf Club versus Miami Surf Club fruit and veggie fight. I remember hearing about it. I thought, I've got to watch this. It was hectic.
Yeah, I was probably 16, I guess. They used all the older clubbies and that had a friendly rivalry with Miami Surf Club, and Warren Young was actually part of Miami Surf Club, who ended up being the Gold Coast head of the lifeguard situation. Yeah. So. Anyway, so what we used to do is collect all the rotten fruit from the local fruit shops, and then we'd have a war of the beach, let's call it, and it was a fruit fight, and whoever forced the other team back to their surf club, they had to put the beers on. So it wasn't a bad day.
Mate, you wouldn't get away with that now, would you? The cops would be called.
Oh, mate, and it was on the beach. It was literally on the beach on Boxing Day, and... like a raw peach coming at you, that's not a good sight, I think.
Oh, the things we did. But, mate, from there, how'd you get into training surfers? Like you've done... Actually, no, hold on, we'll go backwards a bit. You told me you've coached Olympians. What about your Olympians that you've coached?
Yeah, when I came back from England, and I was just fortunate, actually, to get a job at the AIS, and I was based at Tullabudger Fitness Camp. And... basically, my role looked after any Queensland or Northern New South Wales kids that were in Olympic programs, and sort of that was at Athens, and then went through Beijing, and then London, and then Rio, and then Japan. And
can you drop a few names for us, mate?
I worked heavily with the kayak program and the rowing program and triathlon. So you only got to sort of think around the Gold Coast people who won, did good.
Also, but that's pretty awesome, mate. That's another level. But you told me you always wanted to get into surfing. That's
if you sort of were going to talk to the Glen Workman in, like 1982 or 1980 about having a job at Surfing Australia that was going to be professional and coaching, and like that's crazy. And so when a job came up at Surfing Australia, and I thought I'd done enough time with kayaking and that, I'd had sort of 4 Olympics with them, and I just needed a change, I guess, and applied for the job and got the job. Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty cool. And mate, now what's the difference? Like, because you've trained rugby league players, kayakers, other sort of things, mate. What's the difference between their training and a professional surfer? What's the sort of differences in training? Because I know, like, rugby league and AFL is really different, because rugby league, they're big blokes, and in AFL, they're slimmer. It's a different thing. But what about with surfers and the difference between those and athletes as far as physical training goes?
First and foremost, I think, like, surfers are actually artists, and they're artists on a wave, basically, and it's all around, what they can do visually. So there's a whole component to that you're never going to become like a time and distance sport where it's all purely numbers. You're never going to move into that space, I don't believe. There's going to be parts of that, but at the end of the day, it's an artistic sport, so you've got to have that artistic aspect to it. And then the higher levels of manoeuvre, that's when it plays back into our situation, into strength conditioning.
And like paddling and all that
sort
of stuff.
There's paddling, there's paddling into big waves, there's waves of consequence, there's aerial manoeuvres where the forces coming down through their legs and that when they land, that all plays into the gymnasium. And then there's a whole aspect of that can get transferred over to trampolining and gymnastics, and then that also plays into aerial awareness. So at the root of it all, I don't want to get too deep, but the root of it all comes back to strength. And then strength's like the pillar that moves into all the other aspects. And then that allows everyone else to have a bigger wad of paints to paint with.
Yeah.
So the more paint you got, the more artistic you can be, and then it's up to your individual flair.
And mate, there's who's the hardest trainer down there that you like of the surfers? Who really puts in the most?
Different tap. I think Cal Robson's pretty renowned for. He loves training and that.
Yeah, he looks like it too.
Yeah, he loves training. I get on really good with a lot of the surfers. Cal plays a lot more into my sort of psyche, because he could have been a rugby league player. Like, you only see his cousin is the hooker for the North Queensland.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so there's things like that. And Cal, he's at a point now where he's physically developed enough. Like, surfers only need to have a certain degree of strength to play into what they want to do on the wave. So if you look at airs now, airs are getting scored if they're higher off the lip. So therefore those forces are greater. So if you are going to attempt high airs, you've got to have greater leg strength.
It's ankle strength, knee strength,
and that comes into the gym. And that's a pretty simple equation. And then, the next thing will be, who can do more rotations in the air, and whether that gets scored better or not. Whether it goes to a 540, I don't know.
Yeah.
And it's a reverse landing to a pick turn out, like stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's where, is the sport going to get more artistic? In artistic, I mean, is there going to be a greater gymnastics component to it?
Yeah, more than likely, I think, because don't they use the trampoline so they've got that awareness in there, so they feel comfortable upside down, spinning around or whatever?
Yeah, so that's something that we do. We're fortunate enough to have the tramps literally right next to the gymnasium, or in the gymnasium. Yeah. So we tie a lot of that in, and it's not tramp work, it's more aerial awareness and being comfortable in height, being comfortable off axis, being comfortable upside down, and then learning how to spot to land. And then the sooner you spot, the more confidence you have in that landing ability.
And so what sort of strength exercises would you do? Is it with weights or like...
Yeah, certain. You got to remember, like, surfers are so different. Like, it's not, this is where it is different to rugby league. And like with rugby league, you know, you got to be big and strong. There is backs and forwards. Surfers are all so different. They're tall, they're short, they're limber, they're stiff, they've got different complexities. So in the gym, there is the foundation of strength. There has to be strength because strength does rule everything. Everything else comes off the back of strength. Yeah. So there's genuine, you know, there's ABC exercises that you do like squats and deadlifts and then variations of that.
So is that something that, like, you know, your regular surfer, what could a regular surfer do to improve their ability, like strength-wise? What sort of exercise would you recommend for, like, just your average Joe that wants to get stronger and wants to be a better surfer?
If you look at, it's called there's hinging, which are deadlifts. So hinging is just bending over to pick something up, and that uses your bottom or your glutes. Yeah. And then there's squats, and that uses the front of your legs, your quads.
God, I hate squats.
Yeah, and then surfers need great ankle range. So, you know, if you were just to follow a general program, you know, knee over toe, the term knee over toe is a good thing for surfers.
Is that a squat, knee over toe?
Yeah, so allowing your knees to go past your toes for surfers is great, where if you went to a lot of other sports, that would be a no-no.
Oh, because that's too far to go.
Yeah, it's too far, but surfers need that flexibility and mobility, and the landing and the different contorted positions that they get into, you've got to have that flexibility.
So stretching and yoga, is that part of it too?
Yeah. So strength's only a tiny piece of the pie, but it's so important to have that foundation of strength. And then that plays into power. That actually plays into mobility. That plays into flexibility. So everyone thinks that if you do weights, you're going to get too stiff. But surfers are so different and people are so different. Some people are very hypermobile and need to do strength work to actually tighten themselves up. You can actually do strength work. If you're a stiff person that has like joint problems, you can do strength work to actually increase your mobility. So it's so different, and that's the beauty, and that's the best part about working with surfers. They're so different. Where you go to a kayak, like you go to a time over distance sport, like a 100-meter sprinter or a 100-meter swimmer, or kayaking's over 500 and 1,000 meter. That time and distance, they've got to have so many similarities, and strength. Strength is 1% that can actually improve that, where strength in surfing depends on the individual. So much on the individual, not on the distance or the time that they need to achieve. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, so it's like because everybody's different, and the way they surf is different too, I suppose. Because some people's style means they have strengths in different areas. Would that be right?
Yeah, definitely. You know, like if someone has a big like carving game, there's exercises that you would do to improve and enhance that. There's definite exercises if someone's going down that aerial track that you should do just for your longevity and your injury prevention.
Well, that's the thing. I was talking to Josh Kerr, and he said, you know, his knees and ankles are buggered because, like, you think, like, they're spinning in the air 8, 10, 12, 15 feet in the air, and they're landing flat, bang. That's a lot of pressure on your ankles and knees.
Yeah,
you know?
And Kersey's he's paying the price for what he did now. And that's with utmost respect. What he did was revolutionary in the sport, and now he's paying the price for it through his body. Yeah. So, and I can say this with utmost respect, and that we don't want our kids in 10 years to be suffering like Kersey is.
Yeah.
So that's why we are introducing the gym work at a young age, so that, you know, they do have that resilience. They still can follow their passion around doing the manoeuvres and pushing the boundaries and wanting to be limitless, but they're going to be injury-free. They're going to have a longer career. There's going to be longevity in themselves and developing the sport and taking the sport to another level.
Well, that's amazing because, yeah, of course, Kersey never had anything like that. He was just running off his own mind and his own bat and revolutionised. Well, there we go. Surfing, mate. Some of the guys you train that are on the CT. How do they train? Like who's some of your really dedicated blokes besides Callum, of course. He's bad.
I got a soft spot for Lob. He's
a great bloke, Lobby.
And they're all. I'll kind of just leave it at that.
Okay. Is there anyone that comes in? Because I know when I was a kid, my old man, you knew my dad. We didn't want it. I did one day at Nobby's Nippers. So I got the record at Nobby's Nippers one day, and I said, "Dad, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing it." And he said, "You want to surf? Well, you're going to have to swim." So I had to go and swim with Nev Bruff.
Yep.
Oh, he was a mean man. Yep. He's a great bloke, but a mean man when I was a kid. And we'd get there every morning and go, "Terry, Robert, 32 laps, warm up, butterfly." And I hated it, mate. I hated it. But I'd do it, and I did it. But is there anyone that you can see they don't like doing the work, but they know they've got to do it, and they put in? Oh, you don't have to give names.
Yeah,
but, you know.
There is people. There are, I'll call them athletes that are like that for sure. But we're trying to accommodate everything. So like surfers are peoples of they're nature people.
Yeah.
So the idea of swimming and following a black line doesn't make sense. So we actually do. We do beach sessions and hill sessions around Burl. There's a number of places that we do hill sessions and then move over into the beach. And they're water people. They love being in the ocean. So do the training in the ocean, and that tends to play a lot more into, like realistically, a lot of it is like clubby training. Yeah. So when you go back to that, it's actually, ironically,
I know.
It's actually like that, and Ironman training and that, and because they're, they do surf in waves of consequence. There's all the breath holding. There's so many aspects that come across from a multitude of other sports that actually play into surfing, and that's probably the beauty of it for a job like mine. There's so many like really unique things that come from other sports that can be applied in surfing and actually be beneficial to the surfers, because there's so many different surfers and styles and people in surfing.
Mate, surfing has evolved a lot since you've even started your job, mate. Well, how did you see that evolution happening as you were part of it, sort of thing?
Yeah, it's evolving all the time, and we're fortunate enough. We've got some really good people that we can access and that around, like judging and our coaches. A lot of our coaches are ex-CT surfers or like high-level surfers and that. So, and the want to be back at the top of the world again, and I'm guessing like take over that Brazilian storm aspect and all the rest of it, and have that depth through all our ages, so that we're safe for a period of time, and keep bringing more through, and have like I talk around depth of knowledge and then depth of application of that knowledge, and then having that all through the ages, and then that'll make us safe for years to come. That's sort of. So answering your question, I think the knowledge that we have in our coaching staff and throughout our facility, and the vision of being limitless, I guess.
Yep.
And open up your mind to what's achievable is probably how I'd look at it.
And mate, what ages do the people that come to the HBC? What ages is Surfing Australia targeting kids from now?
It goes down to sort of 12-year-olds.
Wow.
Yeah, and some of that's only like touch points. So that's only like little touch points and that. And then typically the youngest ones that come into the program are around 14.
Yep.
Yeah, and then we progress it from there.
Well, I know there's a couple of our Burleigh board riders girls that are Charlie Haitley and Isla Huppets are in, and it's pretty good one. I think it was 8 girls selected across the country, and our board riders club got 2 of them, I think. And mate, those kids are so talented, mate. Particularly women surfing, I'm just amazed. And here's something: is it different with the guys to the girls? The strength and conditioning, does that change with male or female?
It does and it doesn't. Yeah. So, as I said, like the foundation is strength, and you do need that, and that plays into other areas. And then there's obvious female differences to male differences, and you've got to approach that. I won't go too far into this. It's a bit of a rabbit hole that you could go down.
Yeah.
And there is definite things that women need that men don't, and vice versa. And then we access like experts in various fields, and that allows us to sort of accommodate.
Like biomechanics, that sort of thing?
Oh, yeah, biomechanics and medical staff and, women's health. There's a number of different things that we tap into. Nutrition that's specific to females versus men. And so, we look into it fairly heavily. And, hopefully we're sort of pushing things in the right direction and being able to accommodate for every aspect that applies to, all surfers, male and female.
Mate, some of these, who are the best up-and-comers that you've seen in the Surfing Australia youth program you've got there? Oh, it's too hard to name names, get in trouble.
That's a tough one.
Okay, sorry, I can't put you on the spot there. But mate, obviously, you reckon there's a few future world champions coming out of this program?
Absolutely. On the day, it's always going to be difficult. Like anyone who's surfed in comps and that, you can just have the ocean. Yeah, the oceans. Yeah. That's real. That's actually real. That's something that if you go back and say, what have you noticed since I started the job? Yeah. The ocean.
It hasn't changed, has it? It's still the ocean.
You can have, even as a social surfer, you can have the best surf, and then you can go back the next day and have the worst surf. And it's just your rhythm with the ocean is real.
Is there anyone that you've noticed has really got that in their brain, the rhythm of the ocean like this?
Yeah, there's some people that and you can be at, when the swells are on and you'll surf a specific point or a specific break, there's some people that they're just in the right spot at the right time all the time.
Oh, Russell Speck from North Straddie, he's one of them. Like I've sat out at Point Lookout when it's good, and he'll paddle 5 metres one way. Next thing he's on the bomb set.
Yep.
Next thing he's out there and he'll paddle 5 metres the other way and he's on. It's just like he's just got that thing at North Straddie. But there's definitely people that seem to just like Tony Ray I used to surf against. And I remember surfing Burley at Gold Coast Titles against him, and it was like 2 foot onshore Burley, and it was crap. And next thing I'm paddling back out and here's Tony Ray in a barrel. And it's like, what? Where'd that come from?
It's definite. And probably the cream always rises to the top. Yeah. So if we've got 50, 51, 52 athletes on the books, let's call it, and they're across various age groups, and they're the cream. And then we also have like affiliated athletes that are on the fringe that we still do work with and still try and accommodate. And, they've got that aspect. They know they're good because they understand the ocean. Yeah. So they've got that. So seeing our kids, they'll do exactly what, Ray did. Yeah. They'll just move 5 foot to the right and left, and then all of a sudden it's there. Yeah.
Mate, now I know Surfing Australia down there at the HTC have things for this, your normal Joe Blow can come in and, do some work and that. Would you reckon that's a good thing for someone who's a surfer and wants to improve to come down there?
Yeah, definitely. There's Surfing Australia's going into an era where they're trying to run everything in-house, and they're trying to make it a semi-hybrid of what the high-performance program's doing. And so therefore, if I looked at that and I'd go, okay, there's strength programs, there's mobility programs, there's Pilates programs, there's going to be aerial awareness programs for, young, or not even just a young, for any punter. I think it'd be a beneficial thing to do.
Well, my dentist, Dr. G, g'day, Dr. G, she's done a few of the programs there, and I've actually, because she shows me some of her videos of her surfing, and her surfing has really improved since she's done that program, and she's only done a little bit of it. I think, she's on the lower end of the scale, but I think even you can get some advantage through doing that as well.
Oh, definitely. There's, nothing beats time in the water, obviously, but there's, we all sit in chairs and we're slumped over computers a lot of the time, so our postures are getting, as a generation-wise, they're probably getting poorer and poorer. So, just that, like the mobility that you can do, and then adding the strength, layering over that strength over the top of that, it's a natural progression, I'd call it. Yeah. So it definitely would improve your surfing, swimming more in the ocean will improve your surfing as well.
Mate, what do you see in the future with surfing, like going ahead 10 years? What can you see it? Can you see it like going, like you're saying before, 540s and all that sort of crazy stuff? Or do you think the rail game will still be in there?
I think everyone loves everyone's kind of still passionate about, like man or woman against nature.
Yeah.
And I think that'll always stay there. I do believe just how wave pools are going, and they're becoming extremely popular. They're getting better. They're getting the waves are bigger. They're being able to put air sections in them and all the rest of it. I think this is only Glen Workman thinks that there'll be a hybrid comp type thing, or
you mean like wave pool tour, natural tour?
Well, I think they're bringing one wave pool into the WSL,
Abu Dhabi,
Abu Dhabi now, and it'll be interesting to see how that goes. A lot of the purists kind of think it's a bit boring to watch.
Yeah. Well, my mum, Shirl, she loved watching surfing. She found the wave pool boring. She loved the normal surfing. She used to coach Stephanie from the television too, but she said she actually liked the which is more up your alley, the board riders battle kind of thing.
Yeah. I think board riders battles I think that'll end up like a tag team comp at the Olympics.
Yeah, I reckon that's what should be in the Olympics.
Oh, it'll be fantastic. So I get kind of passionate around this. Like if each country picks 6 surfers and like maybe only 4 competed in the main draw, and then you had a tag team event at the end. I think, which is like the board riders, like that's more country versus country as opposed to individual.
I reckon just have the board riders battle
exactly.
for it, mate, because it's a team and it's a team sport, even though surfing's an individual thing.
Yeah.
But I think as far as getting surfing popular, that's going to, because, well, look, my mum was 88 when she died, and she loved watching her surfing, and that was the thing that she really, because I think people understand time and all of that, but they love the beauty of surfing. It combines a bit of everything, like your footy kind of athletic thing combined with surfing.
Oh, I think there was 2 things that happened to me at the ABB last year, like standing on the hill in the car park at Burleigh, and it was a pub.
Oh, yeah.
That was like, whoa, what the heck? And then I think I watched Joel Vaughan had 40 seconds to run down the ramp, catch a wave, and then run up the hill.
Yeah.
And they won that
heat or whatever,
and you talk around that time and distance, and that aspect of all these other sports came into it, and the team aspect. And you can ask any of the young surfers now, and you go, oh, what's the best event? ABB.
Yeah.
Usher Cup. All those team events, they love them.
Yeah, they do. And the spectators seem to love it too, because, mate, honestly, when you get down, like you said, like there's 40 seconds and you've got to get to the top of that hill. I know that Burleigh they were training on the laps, and I believe Stratty now are running around the island because they're all thinking if it's big again, because I saw a couple of well-known surfers that shall not be named that got to the bottom of the hill and gone, F this, I'm in a surf, but, mate, even I notice now, I think some of the teams are probably going to have a couple of older age reserves, because a few of the blokes were doing hammies and stuff. They never run like that. And when you're surfing for your team, you're that passionate, you just go, and you don't realise you've just done your hammy. So then the next round, you're buggered. So some of them are thinking like maybe get a couple of subs in that older age group.
Oh, definitely. We've got a duty of care to our athletes. Yeah. And knowing that they're going to be in this event, the ABB coming up, it's no secret that we're actually doing a bit more of that running type and beach type activities, just so that they can get through the event without being injured.
Yeah, because like that's when injuries happen, is it when you're tired?
Yeah, 100%.
Is that right? Yeah.
So you're tired, you're exerting yourself, you've got all the pressure of the crowd, you're just going that extra 2% that your body just isn't used to at that point in time, and that's when it happens.
Well, I find when I'm surfing and I surf a long time, in the end I've got to go, you got to go in, mate, because you're tired and you're going to make a mistake and you're going to get hurt. Yeah. That's generally what happens, I think. You get tired and you make a mistake. And
everyone talks about, it's that last wave.
Yeah.
It's probably because you're already dehydrated. You still sweat when you're in the ocean, so you're dehydrated, your blood's thickened up, your muscles are tired, they're tight, and then you all want to, look at that, I'm going to make this, and then all of a sudden, yeah.
Or you go the late drop, and then your body just goes, no, you're not.
No. Reality check, mate.
Yeah, I get a few of those. Hey, mate, like you're still surfing, mate. Yeah. You're still loving your surfing?
I love it. I truly, it's such a release for a lot of people, just being in the ocean and the beauty. I think there's parts of surfing that you can sit there by yourself and just admire nature and the beauty of nature. And that sounds like a bit hippie-ish and that, but it's actually so calming. And when you watch a wave like barrel and spit, there's not a surfer in the world that doesn't go, holy shit, how cool is that? How cool is that?
It is.
And just be there sometimes when you're out there by yourself and you see that and you just go, wow, that's neat.
I find it's medicine for the mind. I've had it sometimes in my life, things are going to shit a bit, not terrible, but I'll go out and have a surf and then all of a sudden the world's okay again.
Yep. 100%.
Unless, of course, someone drops in on me, then I might get a little angry. But, I can be the angry man, but not all the time. But, mate, where do you surf mostly now?
I surf down near Crumman Surf Club, actually.
Oh, that's awesome, mate. And what sort of boards you riding now? You're
I am sort of known for riding bigger boards.
Mini Mouse from back in the day.
Yeah, I got one of Vosso's first Mini Mouse.
Terry Vosper, what a great
Terry
man.
Vosper, and I stuck with bigger boards for a long time, probably because I was getting bigger from football. Yeah, and it just let me paddle them. I go down to a 6.6 is probably the shortest I go to now.
So you were ahead of the trend on the mid-length thing, mate.
Yeah, exactly.
You were the hipster before hipsters.
30 years in front of everyone.
Hey, Worko, mate, it's been great having a chat and hanging out and all your knowledge, mate. I think surfing is for Australia is pretty safe with your help, mate. And I know you're a genuine man and a good man. And I tell you what, all those crew that I talk to, they love you, mate. So it's pretty awesome. It's great to see you on the green room, mate.
Thank you very much, Tappa.
There you go, Glen Workman.
Thanks,
awesome
mate.
Worko. You. Thanks for tuning into the Green Room. A big thank you to our guests for sharing their stories and insights, our producer Sarah, and Podfire for bringing this podcast to life. Don't forget to subscribe, like, leave a review, and share the Green Room with your friends. We'll catch you next time for more conversations with the legends of surf and beyond. Until then, catch you in the waves.